Hello! Welcome to Ramblings and Babblings, and let's talk about 100 ghost stories. That Japanese game slash ritual. I think most of us has come across this through either scary stories or movies or anime. There's one popular anime called XXX Holic by Clamp. Yeah. Maybe you've seen that, and in that anime they have this game, and I wanted to talk about my theory uh, on why it is the way it is and what is actually happening. So I'm going to explain, of course, the game for you, even if you know it. Um, because anyway, so let's get into it. So whether you know it or you don't, so 100 ghost stories, it's supposed to be like this. So you you sit inside a ring, and the objective is that you have to tell 100 ghost stories. So each person, you go around, and each person has their own scary stories, their own ghost story, and for every story they're supposed to light a candle. I'm not sure if all of the I think it's as you go you're supposed to light the candle. So that is the the, the actual game. And at the end of that 100 story, a spirit is supposed to appear. Of course, many people they don't do 100 stories, but I think that uh, let's talk about. But if you were to do this, if you were to do it properly, best case or worst case, you will. Okay, let's save this for last. So let's just go through the game, the ritual. So the first part is the candles, right? So for each candle, so think about for each candle there's one spirit. Because that is what is actually happening, is that you're summoning a spirit through fire. So each candle is one spirit. And then it is really important to summon a hundred spirit. If you're going to do this properly, 100 spirit. And remember, the candles are placed around you, so you're creating this protective circle. So those spirits that you're summoning, each spirit that you're summoning through a tale, through a scary story, becomes like a guardian for you or the group that is inside the magic circle. And that is because if done right, probably like properly, the actual entity that is or spirit entity that is summoned is quite powerful, and also, yeah. So when you really think about it, it's really scary if you think about that ritual and or game. And also how with each story which is summoning a spirit that is acting as a shield, as a protective spirit, is through the psychic charge of this storytelling. Um, the psychic charge is created through the fear and through the suspense, and that is how this spirit is being conjured up that becomes your shield. So that one light become associated with that spirit comes through the is able to come through the psychic chart of the storytelling. So the collective of all of those spirits that you now are using as a protective shield. It's like the spirit that you're summoning, or rather, I think it's just an entity, a negative entity. That's my theory, at least. It's like a boss level at a game. So it's like it is what that one entity is just as powerful as all of the 100 spirits. And it is being summoned. So I don't know if this is a sort of black ritual, dark ritual that is leaked originally by some black magician way back in time, just so that a sort of this protective circle, also, even though you're inside the magic circle, you're sort of conjuring an entity. So you're creating this portal in a way. You're thinning the veil of this world and the other worlds. Probably a sort of lower astral entity. And maybe even it is associated to the collective consciousness of the people inside, like their collective shadow. So each entity is different. But maybe this ritual, this game, was leaked way back in time so that people would play it, and then you would conjure unconsciously, unknowingly. You're just playing a game, right? But if you do it properly, you would help this an entity come into this world. So, and I don't mean like in a third dimensional, like they won't receive like a physical body, but their energy, is able to penetrate this sort of psychic firewall of this reality. And if and then it can, attach easily my English, easily, more easily attach itself to people, or places that whose psychic firewall, I call it the psychic firewall, are sort of down. And how your psychic defenses, psychic firewall, just like a virus firewall, goes down is, for example, whenever you do something like drugs or drinking, anything that alters, even meditation, especially when you're traveling, when you're altering your consciousness, you're thinning the veil. When you go into trance, also, all of that. And if you are depressed, for example, for a long time, you're in very low state, then a being, a thought form that is in that same vibration, can attach itself to you. So it becomes like, this is just an example, it feels like your own thoughts. So let's say an alcoholic that has an entity attachment, this entity experiencing through, the consumption of alcohol, and what the good feeling that it brings, or whatever it is, high, or through that person. So, and they use that person as a host. I'm not saying that if you're an alcoholic or you're doing drugs that you have an entity attachment, but that is an example that how things work, how it can. So then this entity doesn't want the alcoholic person to break free from their alcoholism. So it becomes more difficult for that person that has this attachment to actually break free. And the compulsions, so because they're attached, like the entity's compulsions, impulses becomes your own. So I kind of see it also as a, let's say you're in a very low state and that is a, I don't know, a dark brown color. And then this entity thought form, I'm just using a thought form as an example, is in that vibration. And now, for whatever reason, your psychic, you know, psychic protection, your psychic walls are down and they attach because you're in the same, you're resonating in the same frequency. Now it's like their impulse is your impulse, their thoughts are your thoughts because they're so similar. Just an example. But anyway, so this ritual might be have been created by a black magician to bring in negative entities, and they always attach themselves to people who are more vulnerable. The person who's depressed in your group, the person who has chronic depression, chronic alcoholism, whatever. Um, but if done right, at least the people inside of this magic circle, they're protected. Um, but I feel like most people, they don't go through the trouble telling 100 stories. So it becomes like using an Ouija board where it's just this chaos portal of where you have no psychic protection. You don't have the magic circle. And then maybe the thing that they're conjuring up by telling the 100 stories might not be as powerful, but still a negative spirit, a negative entity, and now it's loose out in the world. And if someone in your group is going through a bad time, it's easier for that entity to attach itself to their psyche. That's why also with the Ouija board, I do not recommend those sort of games. Because even if, it started as it was just a made up board game, but it has become it doesn't matter. You can make up anything and make it powerful just with enough uh, focus, enough psychic charge. I'm sorry, I words today. Okay, with the Ouija, there's so many people that have charged this made up play toy and made it into this thing that that you can use to conjure up spirits. So by doing that, with so many people focusing on that and believing that, or even if they don't properly believe, but all of that intention has created that reality. So now it's become like this portal, like a chaotic portal where you can contact things, yes, but I would say like 100 times or 100 is not a good thing. It's just a chaotic spirit. Probably, yeah, and they do have information because they exist in another beyond our time. Even if it is an spirit from the astral, like they don't they can pass, time is irrelevant. We just here in this existence we experience it as linear, but they can tell you things and they can pretend to be a relative or a loved one, you know? So it's just this chaos portal, a free for all for the ghouls to come and eat or attach themselves to to someone and experience this reality through someone else. So harvest energy to keep themselves alive, and yeah, and of course the different types. But you know, I think that this 100 ghost stories, just like the Ouija, is this sort of um, it creates it thins the veil so that things that we do not want can come in. We open the door to the vampires, and of course, in the 100 ghost stories, if done properly, you are safe. But then you're still conjuring up this really the boss's negative spirit into the world. So in whatever form that it takes, I was using the form of a thought form of an idea just as an example. But there are many different shapes that they can take, um, and maybe because you know when we get those when we hear about those games, there's also with every a ceremonial ritual, there's a proper way of ending it. So if that ending, the ending of the ritual, has been that information has been skewed throughout time, and you do not end it properly, maybe that psychic protection, because you're not ending it properly, maybe it doesn't even work for you because you didn't end it properly. Or maybe if you do the whole ritual properly, yes, the spirit is conjured in, the veil is thin, but once the game is done, it sort of goes back. I don't know, but I have a bad feeling um about that game. And if you do not do it properly, you're just it becomes like an Ouija board where you're not actually telling 100 stories and you're not lighting up 100 candle, and now you're just you and your group are just completely unprotected. There's no magic circle shielding you. So um yeah, and each spirit that is shielding you, the exchange, the reason why they're shielding you is because you've you have there's been an energy exchange by when you told the story, when the person tells the story, and this energy is created, this emotion in the people who are listening, this psychic charge, that is what they are feeding off of, and that it becomes the energetic exchange. So an exchange of services. um yeah, so be careful out there. Yeah. I have a bad feeling about that game. So don't like people want to do it because it's fun to get scared and they want to know if there's something out there, but yes there is. And because people right humanity right now is at a state where they don't it's difficult to see, to experience. We're in a very dense phase in our development. um you know, a lot of people don't believe in this stuff, but they cannot sense the spiritual reality of things, or they do sense it, but they don't really, they overvalue the logical brain, and yeah. Um, but yeah, though this, there are spiritual realities, and there's a lot of beings, and we need to be careful. I want to put this video out there, so yeah, don't play those games. It's just plain stupid and dangerous. You might aggravate if you have a small depression, then you do one of those games, you might, worst case scenario, that thing causes you to really get into a deep, 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 deep depression, and get anxiety. And it's not yeah, they always attack the weakest link at that time, which is the one whose psychic firewall is a bit down, a bit weak. And we all experience we all have those times. So mhm. So that was my warning to you kids. Don't drink and drive. Anyways, um I hope this was some food for thought. Food for thought, yeah. Or at least was entertaining. And I hope to see you back at my channel. Keep being your perfectly perfect self. I will do the same. Bye bye. Subscribe.